Welcome to episode 1 of the 10K pod. Holy shit, Geordie, we're here.
The Phantom Crow.
The Macabre Arcana EP is coming out. I don't know why I said the. Man, that was unnecessary, but it's coming out, man. Can you believe it? We thought we'd celebrate with this little podcast to, document a point in time in our lives. I'm excited, dude. I'm excited to talk about the tracks. I'm excited to talk about... We've got a bit of Q&A as well. It's going to be fun. But yeah, how do you feel that this EP is coming out? We've got 5 tracks out on Spotify. What's the overall emotions when you sort of take stock of that? Wow. Jubilation, that sounds like.
Yeah, you know me. I'm just like, I'm always thinking ahead. I try not to look back too much on, the past releases. I'm always thinking ahead. I'm always, all right, cool. That song's recorded. Now I can focus on the next 18 songs for another 6 months. And then you'll just remind me out of nowhere, be like, hey bro, we've got this song coming out. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that little ditty.
I guess it's interesting that we've kind of built over the 5 songs. We've kind of built a bit of a structure with how we do everything.
Well, it's changed a lot. When you consider how long Empress took to write compared to, say, the new stuff that's coming out that people haven't heard yet, it's definitely we're almost like a different band, really.
Yeah, but I feel like as well, you've taken big ownership of putting the songs together, and then we work on it, and then we release it and market it and that type of thing. And we've kind of built up a bit of a way of doing things, which is before I think this release, we were very sort of in the dark, sort of just like, hey, let's give this a go. Let's give that a go. We kind of know what we're doing a little bit more now.
Yeah. We've trimmed a lot of the fat, which is nice.
Anyway, welcome to episode 1 of the 10K pod. Very exciting stuff. This is something that we've wanted to do for a while. Well, maybe not maybe me more so. I'm forcing Geordie into this corner. But really, the idea here is, there was this release a few years ago by 9 Inch Nails, and they had an accompanying piece of audio that was about 45 minutes of Trent Reznor just talking about the making of. And, I love track by tracks. When band releases those with, whatever upcoming piece of content, single, album they have. So what I thought would be cool for us was to go through each song, kind of talk about it, what we remember, all that kind of stuff in the creation process. And then we've also got a Q&A at the end. Super, super pumped to this. And I want to try and make this a thing with every release we do. It's a little sort of diary entry into the assortment of releases we've got coming around the corner. Anyway, this episode of the first 10K pod is sponsored by you boys, 10kcrows.com, our official merch store. You can go pick up merch right now. We've actually got pre-orders that are ending on the 8th of October. You can go pick up some gear. We've got some really cool shit, some new hoodies, long sleeves, awesome tea, really brutal tea of this crow eating this guy's face. Very cool stuff. We love that stuff. And you can use the code 10KPOD, 10KPOD, and you can get 10% off your order, as well as our boys at Judgement picks, our favorite guitar pick in the world. Look at this. Look at this little Star Trek thing. Huh? Hey. We love... look at that. That's some unreleased shit right there.
Well, I don't know if that one's ever going to get released. I'm not sure if that one's just a prototype, I think, that he just sent me.
Maybe it is, man. Maybe you got lucky.
Man, I've been using this one, man, this little purple ditty.
Yeah?
This thing to record all the new stuff. So thick. It's just they're so chunky, but they give you such good tone.
What's the vibe?
That's my plug.
What do you say about Judgement picks against other picks out there? Why would you say somebody should go check it out if they're a guitar player?
It's like ordering an $80 steak compared to a $15 Wednesday special at the local pub.
Fuck yes.
That's what it's like.
What an allegory. Actually, I don't think that's the right term for it at all. But anyway, Jaquetto Picks,
No.
go check him out. Go check him out on Insta. Go check him out on their website. They're always dropping really cool stuff. And we use all of their stuff to record. And it's definitely improved our tone. And yeah, we're excited. We're excited for what the future holds with those guys. Anyway, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this podcast. The track by track, 5 songs coming out with Macabre Arcana. Let's kick things off with this first song we released in July of 2020, The Hanged Man. I remember, dude, the thing that I remember about The Hanged Man is when, we'd been jamming on a lot of things up until that song sort of came out on that particular day. But we'd been jamming a lot more sort of melodic stuff, sort of more post-hardcore, maybe a bit more genty periphery kind of stuff. And when that song came out, I was like, whoa, okay, this is new territory. Territory for us.
That song was like the whole catalyst towards starting this band. Like if I hadn't written this song, then we would still be doing like violin flourishes and little melodic hardcore, like clean choruses, stuff like that. Like I know we were really into all that kind of stuff once upon a time. I know I've kind of grown out of it a little bit. I know you still kind of listen to you still love like your hardcore bands and your metalcore bands and stuff like that.
We used to be in a band called Scion that was kind of like this post-hardcore, Bring Me Sempiternal kind of style. And we had never done anything that heavy, but I think you and I working together, we had kind of built up a bit of a rapport. Like we had written so many songs together at that stage in so many different genres, and none of them got released. They were just sitting on a hard drive. We'd just been hanging out, bullshitting. But then when this one came out and we demoed it, and did it take about 45 minutes to demo the whole song?
Yeah, it was so quick. I wrote the whole song in like one night, just in my bedroom, just like on a little shitty $400 guitar. Like
we pumped it out. And it was like, okay, we've got a whole new direction for where we're going. And it felt so much more, I don't know, it's just hitting me a lot harder than a lot of the other stuff we had been demoing at that stage. There was an immediacy to it.
It was the first song that wasn't like that we didn't look at and be like, all right, how can we make this like a full single? Like, how can we make this like a mad chorus with like a huge clean section? Like we were just like 4 sections. It's 1:50. It's just heavy from start to finish. Like, cool. Yeah, that's fun. That's actually more fun than writing like a full-on 4-minute track.
And
it was at the time anyway.
100% agree. Because I don't think we'd ever done a song sort of less than 3 minutes at that stage.
Yeah.
So it's just like this little ripper hardcore song. And I think, the thing that took the longest was vocals. I was sitting on the vocals for a long time, trying to figure out what to do. And this was one of the only songs on the EP that I did all the lyrics and vocal patterns for.
Yeah, you did 100% of all of it, yeah, which was pretty cool. I still think that that's kind of also reflective a little bit in the song. Like you can kind of tell that it sounds vocally a little bit different, like structured, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a different vibe. I think it's more on the sort of hardcore side, and we've, over the songs, kind of gone a little bit more in the deathcore, black metal realm. But this song, what's interesting, is all about COVID, and it's all about like we were writing it in sort of March 2020, which was when it was really starting to rise up, and we hadn't really figured it out like what COVID actually was, and this was sort of my that movie Contagion or some kind of zombie apocalypse or that type of thing, kind of taken in that direction, but with the personal aspect, the last few lines, I'll never see your face again, I'll never feel embraced again, like that kind of that final moments in life, and you just like swirling and then it's taken from you, and it's kind of like, it seemed to fit the short, sharp nature of the song. Like everything sort of fit together. And what's really weird is I was rereading the lyrics when I was uploading the EP to distribution. I was like, wow, these lyrics feel more, with the Delta strain, it feels like more appropriate now than it did last year. I don't know. I'm proud of this song, and I think it is what it is. It's short. It's not packed with layers. It's just like kind of gets you in the throat, grabs you, and you're done.
It's a statement. It's a statement. It's a little short, like kind of statement track. To me, it always felt like it was written to be the first track on an album or an EP. Like that was kind of the vibe when I was just writing it, I guess.
The teaser
it was never
trailer
meant to be more than that. The fact that it came out as a single and it was so like well responded to was like, wow, like people actually like this kind of stuff, because we're not heavy enough to be like in that kind of like Nails and Full of Hell sort of realm of hardcore, but like we're still kind of groovy and heavy. But I don't know, weird song definitely had a much better reception than I was expecting, but I was fucking pretty happy with it.
Yeah, and like as soon as we released it, we saw an uptick. Like everyone, there seemed to just be a vibe, you know? And especially after we posted on TikTok, there was a couple things we did on TikTok of the breakdown that comes in halfway through, just the really groovy one. And I don't know, it just set things off for a really great start for this band.
Yeah, I think it's always good to have like those viral moments in a song, you know? Like just one riff that people can plug ad nauseum.
Stag face. And also
we got the veil technique.
We also got to give a shout out to you in the video, which is
the video. The video horrendous experience of my life to date.
And so you came up with this concept, like, so the imagery of this band has evolved over each release, and we've kind of figured things out as we go. But from the get-go, we definitely knew we didn't want to be two dudes in like death metal long sleeves in a warehouse. Like we didn't want that kind of typical band vibe. We wanted to have a sort of theatrical element to the costumes or our presentation. And I think the first idea you had was that the bandage, the bloody eyes, and the whole concept kind of unfolded from there. But what were you thinking with that?
Well, originally that whole concept kind of stemmed, like to be honest, like to be perfectly candid, it kind of stemmed more from my anxiety than from imagery point of view. Like originally I was just thinking like, I don't want to be like the face of a band. I don't want to be like on the front. I want to be like my face in interviews, all that kind of stuff. I just don't really like, it's just not really me. It's just never really been me. So I'm like, I'm happier being the more anonymous kind of figure that's just got a cool aesthetic vibe. And that was always what I really wanted with the masks. You know, like Slipknot, like Behemoth, all that kind of stuff. They really put everything into their imagery. And if they were just normal guys in like black metal or new metal bands, they would just look like normal guys, you know? Like Nurgle from Behemoth would not be recognizable. He's just a guy. But because he puts so much effort into his thing, you see a picture of him straight away with like the bishop hat and everything. And it's like, oh, that's him. And that's kind of what I always wanted to kind of go for. I wanted to really ingrain that from the start. So that was always a part of our imagery.
Yeah, and it was something that I had to kind of wrap my head around a little bit. But as we've gotten into each release and done more photo shoots and stuff, it's really become quite a fun thing. Like I actually really look forward to it. And I found it quite daunting at the start. It's like, dressing up, man, this... let's see how it goes. But it's worked really well. And I'm stoked you pushed for that.
Yeah, it definitely gives us a little... It's also, like, in social media, it gives us a massive edge as well, because it's so much more recognizable. It's like having a good brand name for your company, you know? Like, it just helps so much. Completely.
Is there anything else on the Hanged Man that comes to mind, or have we pretty much covered it?
Yeah, I mean, it was such a big journey at the time, because it was, like, the start of everything, but at the end of the day, it was still just, you know... two guys going over to each other's houses, recording the licks, sending vocal takes to each other. Like it was written in a very kind of typical, I guess, sort of way.
Yeah. One final thing I think we should just quickly talk about is the tarot card concept. Was that this song was originally called Death, and I think we stumbled into the tarot card idea because we were calling the song Death, and it was like, oh, the artwork could be a tarot card, and then you were like, hey, let's do something else other than death. It's a little too on the nose. Let's do the Hanged Man. And I was that's cool. I'm pretty sure that was the sequence of events.
You definitely came up with the tarot card concept, like the continuous one. I still don't remember who came up with the name The Hanged Man.
No, I definitely think you did. Once we decided on the tarot card thing, and I think we were like, death is a little too on the nose. like, let's do something a bit off the beaten track. And so then the process was to do the artwork, because the concept here with the tarot cards was like, this is sort of replicating an artwork, an album experience in single format, in that there's like an overall thing tying it all together. It's not like, some bands, it's like there's a purple single cover and then completely different font and vibe. Like, we wanted to bring it all together and make it holistic. So, we had to find the artist, and we actually commissioned an artist that we didn't end up using. We commissioned the artwork, and it was a bit of a sting, because it was like money wasted in a way, in a point where we didn't really have that much money, like we had. It was a bit of a bitter pill to swallow, to invest money and time.
It was a risk to not go with it as well, because like it did look cool, but when we both got, I remember when we both got it back, it was just like, this just isn't us. It's just not what we're trying to do. It was too colorful. That was another thing. It had a lot of color in it. It had like a lot of colors, and I was like, yeah, it's just not really the vibe that we're really going for,
If we were maybe a bit more hardcore and a little less creepy, it could have been cool. But I think it just didn't have the creepiness to it. And then I was fucking Devo. I was like, we got this single coming up. We want to release it in July. Like, we got to find another artist. And we went scrolling. I found FD Bones. I think it was Dark Tarot, #DarkTarot or something. I was just looking through hashtags. And he's been just an amazing collaborator and someone we want to continue working with forward. But yeah, I think the lesson there was kind of like, we were mature enough to kind of know, hey, this is not right, and we need to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, and as I said, it was a risk, because you're right. We didn't have like a massive amount of money at the time. We still don't really.
Well, like not like now, we were like billionaires.
Yeah.
Well, Hanged Man, good time. So we kicked things off in July, and then were we writing the Empress as Hanged Man had like we were writing Empress straight away from Hanged Man.
If
I can't even remember.
I found an old video on my Instagram from November 2018 of us laying down the Empress riff. And I remember we had that main riff, just that intro for like since then. So like almost like, a year and a half sort of thing. So
but I remember you going like, that's the next song. Like, that's the opening. Yeah. And I was like, that is so dramatic. That it sounds fantastic,
Yeah. And you could already tell it was going to be like almost a different genre to like the Hanged Man, which was kind of cool. And I think that is also what started us kind of like really making sure every song sounded different.
Yeah. And this one,
which I think we succeeded with.
And immediately had more of a black metal vibe and death metal and just more intensity and more ferocity. And I
think I was watching Van Helsing when I first came up with that riff. I was watching the Hugh Jackman Van Helsing movie, and there's that scene with the castle at the start and like the Frankenstein monster and everything. And I was just like, man, imagine like the soundtrack to this song. And then that's how I came up with those really discordant riffs at the start. I wanted to kind of emulate that sort of.
Like the original, like you mean the 20 when you were writing it in 2018, that riff?
Yeah. Yeah,
oh, nice.
That riff. That riff was inspired from me watching Van Helsing.
That's so good. Yeah, you can hear it's sort of got that vampire-y sort of vibe to it. It's sort of Transylvania,
on a cliffside sort of thing.
Very dramatic. But I remember that song was definitely more difficult to put together than The Hanged Man. Now it's about double in length, so that would make sense.
That song, honestly, out of the 5 songs, barring maybe Judgement, that song was the toughest to put together. Like, it took the longest time.
Yeah, it was like
we'd written a full 4-minute version of it. Yeah, sorry, we'd written like a full 4-minute version of it, and then we ended up scrapping about like 2.5 of those minutes and just starting again.
Yeah, it was getting into the verse, going into the groovy verse. I think we got that locked in pretty early, but it was what happened after that, and the final breakdown, the chorus, all of that stuff took a long time to figure out.
Yeah. Yeah, that song was a bit of a nightmare to write, honestly.
And I remember being a little bit like, I remember we were working on it, and Hanged Man kind of got a bit of lift off, and I was like, wow, like, you know, what are people going to think of the Empress? Because it's very, very different from Hanged Man.
I remember you being a little bit nervous about it. I remember that, actually, because, yeah, you were saying, like, oh, should we do this as the second single? Like, it might be a little bit too long, too much of a dramatic shift. And I'm like, who cares? I'd rather establish a precedent early on that not all of our songs will sound the same.
Yeah,
you know,
which was a great idea.
Ease people into it like they're fucking babies or something. Like, it's just, you know, they can just deal with it. If the song sounds different, too bad.
Yeah, it's definitely set us apart that each song has its own unique character. I also, this was one where you took the lyrics right ahead and did the whole shebang. And I don't necessarily remember you doing that before. I don't think we'd ever worked on a song where you'd done so like.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of by accident, because even after we'd finished recording the song, you were still kind of writing the lyrics. And I remember going into the studio, and we were just like kind of listening to them, and we were like, oh, this one's not working. And then I came up with a few ideas for like alternatives, and then it just ended up that I just kept writing things for it. So I think that's just how it is. But it was such an easy song to write lyrics for, honestly. Probably the easiest out of all of them, because it was such a distinct lyrical theme of the Empress just, you know, being a boss bitch sort of thing.
And I feel like out of all the songs, like the clarity in the lyrics, like this one has thematically is really on point. Like I can see the imagery, like, you know, especially cities built on carnage, and just like, you know, this sort of medieval or fantastic fantasy sort of imagery, and just wiping out castles and just fire. I mean, I see it all in my mind.
We even have that spoken word section that's like, it's like you can just like visualize exactly what's happening in that scene, you know, like the Empress on a throne, some ratty little advisor guy, like kind of bringing like the people forward in chains sort of thing. Like, it's all very on the nose, but it's in a good way, I think. I think it worked really well.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't really heard another band do something like this, you know, like such a character piece, as it were.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the times bands do very general, very generic lyrics. Like this thematically is very, very strong. You know, it's very like, it knows what it is. It's no real bullshit kind of thing. Like, and I think like it was, you know, it was for me also by far the heaviest song I'd ever committed my vocals to. And it was like, wow, okay, this band, like, wow, where can we go from here kind of thing.
Yeah, that was the first time you were really like, because your vocals on that song really put you into like a different state than the Hanged Man, I'd say.
Yeah.
Hanged Man was much more of your, because I've been listening to and producing your vocals for so long. You know, producing.
Yes, you have.
There's like, I know the distinct difference between your highs, your lows, your mids. And I can say to you, like, put one of your this kind of mid in this section, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And I think that the Empress was when that sort of stuff really started to formulate, because Hanged Man was mostly just like your more scratchy kind of high the whole time, like the whole way through it.
Yeah, it was a lot more knocked loose.
Kind of vibe. And I'm like, we need to get more versatile in this song.
Yeah.
And you did. And you pulled through.
And I also remember when we were in the we were in the studio, and you went, okay, here's the chorus. And it's like, fear me in this execution. And I was just like, this is so sick, man. Like, it was so different to what I would do from my vocals, but it was grooving so nicely with the chorus. And I was like, okay, this is really sick. Like, I've always collaborated with people on the lyrics, or like worked with, but like you'd kind of basically presented it and was like, here it is. And it was really, really different, but a different way for me to work. But I was like, I've fully trusted you. And I was like, this guy's churning out some fucking awesome shit. And it just made me excited for what was around the corner.
And they were the first lyrics that I've ever really like tried to write as well. Like literally, that was the first time that I've ever really tried to actually come up with something. So it was new for me. And still, when I'm still writing lyrics now, I still feel like I'm like a bit of an amateur because I still like to rely on like rhymes and kind of more basic structures. So the way that turned out, I'm still pretty proud of those vocals in a lot of those sections. I remember there were like 2 or 3 lines that were giving us grief for like a really long time. In like the main verse and stuff. I can't remember what they were, but they took us like months to figure out.
Yeah.
Nightmares.
But this one only came out 6 weeks after the Hanged Man, so we followed it up pretty fast, and we kind of already got into that cyclical nature of putting the songs together. The video is also super fun. Like something that we both committed to on this series was like, we're going to do a video for every song. And my beautiful wife, Ashley, played the Empress, and that was good fun. Like lots of blood, and tried to do a sort of like a hybrid lyric video thing that turned out really cool, quite simple. It's pretty cheap to put together, and yeah, effective, very effective.
Yeah, that was the only video that I had really no involvement on. That was all you and Ash. And yeah, it turned out so well. Like when you guys sent me like the picture of like, it was just Ash in your bathroom and she was putting on the crown, and I was like, damn man, that's just like a bunch of sticks. That looks fucking sick.
Yeah, I mean, she fully put that together. Like she basically like inhabited the Empress and did the costume, did the crown. It was so cool. And yeah, just super fun and good vibes, you know, like making a horror video clip on the weekends for your band. Like, you know, it could be worse things you're doing, you know? So it was seriously good fun. And I'm still really proud of that little clip. And I think the Empress has become a fan favorite. A lot of people, whenever we say like, what's your favorite tarot card so far? Or some people reach out, like the Empress and the Lovers seem to be 2 that continually come up as fan favorites.
Yeah, I would say that's because the Empress is so distinctive. Like that riff at the start really fleshes out the whole identity of the song, which is just something really easy to grab onto, I guess, you know?
So after Empress, we moved into what we were thinking was going to be Judgement. So we started writing Judgement around this time, which ended up being the 5th track we released. And I remember it was pretty much the same, but halfway through, it was like a whole other section and went into this weird groove. And it just kind of went into this really progressive kind of like the vibe changed so much on the song. I was like, you know, it kind of felt like really progressively. And I feel like we were both sort of saying, hey, is this the right option? Like, this needs some work. You know, I felt like the song was really strong in the intro, the black metal vibe, like the whole thing was really strong, but there was something a little bit off. Do you remember much about that?
Yeah. I remember wanting Judgement. Like, I remember vibing that it should be the last track, but because I liked so much, like, what we'd written so far, I was like, man, I really want to get this out. And I think it's like a really cool thing. Like, I was even saying, like, let's change the name. Like, let's call it something else, save Judgement for last. But it just, no matter what we tried, it just wasn't working. And we tried so many things. We like tore that song down and built it up so many times. That first, I think it's like the first like 90 seconds of the song, like has stayed the same since we wrote it. And then it's just had so many different versions after that. And I mean, we'll get into Judgement later, but I feel like that song, like the space between Empress and Moon was like a whole little story in its own, you know, like we went through so much, we changed so many things.
We had another demo for Moon, which was your one.
Yeah. Yes. The bassy one. Which I was really vibing. I said, oh, that's one of those typical George rooms, man, where I send it to you and you're like, yeah, man, this is sick. Like, this is so sick. And you're like, oh, I can't stop listening to this. And then like 8 hours later, you'll just send me a message out of nowhere being like, hey, bro, like, I'm just not sure about this. Hey, like, I know I have to give you like a 12-hour buffer period after I send you something to allow you to change your mind once or twice on it.
Fucked. It's Mr. Fickle Flippy Floppy. Oi.
Yeah, no, hey, I'm not any better. I'm not any better. I know.
Yeah, no, I remember there was something about that Moon demo. Like, it was really cool because it was was kind of like a little nugget. It was like this sort of little blast of energy.
It was super groovy.
Yeah, and like some of those blast beat sections were really cool, but there was something about the chorus, like that moonlit corpses at my feet. I was like,
surprised you remember it so well.
Just don't. I'm not sure this is the vibe, you know. So
yeah,
your boy picked up a guitar for the first time in like 4 years and banged out like half a demo for Moon, and you helped me with the back half.
I was encouraging you to do that. I was always saying, like, you know, you should write a certain percentage of the songs because we already know that you're like good at writing music, and you have a very distinctly different style to me. And I was like, you should do like a percentage of the songs so that you have like your own kind of stamp on the music. And you did, and you came up with I think it was mainly just the first riff and then the verse that you sent me.
Yeah, the verse and then the chorus. I mean, the verse and the chorus, it basically goes the sort of the main chorus, verse, chorus, and then I had some riffs for the breakdowny second verse bit, but you tweaked them and made them more awesome, like that. That real slinky riff, and just kind of optimized everything and made everything a little bit more awesome with the template that I sort of provided.
Yeah, but I do like that that you have like a very different sound to me as well. Like I think that's a really good thing that and I think we've kept it going as well, you know, like in the new stuff coming out. Like I know you've done a bit more writing as well.
Always 20%. It's always 20%.
Yeah. But it's good, but it stands out.
It takes a little bit of the heavy weight off your shoulders, like those last little details. And I think you're right. It's a different vibe. I remember this song was inspired by Despised Icon. What's the song? Purgatory. I'm pretty sure that's the one. But that opening riff, I was like, I need to write something like that. It's sort of that really double kicky, just sort of low notes moving around with, you know, I just wanted that really sort of like thumpy vibe. So I definitely think we achieved it. Moon's one that, you know, the video took so much of me, man. Like that video, like we put
that was
so
our most
much
involved
time.
video.
Yeah, it was so much time and effort in that video, and it was so much fun. But it ended up taking 3 nights to shoot it because we got rained out on one night, and there was so much story and like, okay, like, you know, I'm like storytelling in videos, like, or film context, you know, is basically just about information, you know, what's happening. Like, so you've got to have all these little details, like, to be able to people to understand exactly what's going on and what you're trying to convey. And there was so much of that. It's like they've got to fall to the ground and they've got to move here, and then this person has to look up and then they've got to look down. And there was so much of that. It was very, very labor intensive and made me not necessarily want to do a story video, even though the next video was a story video. But you know what I mean?
It was, I think Moon was a massive learning curve for both of us, but more so for you being the director. Because, like, obviously you can't see it from the finished product point of view, but being there on set, I noticed a difference in your confidence, I guess, between directing the Moon video and the Lovers video. The Lovers video came together so nicely, so smoothly. It only took about like 3 hours to film like the whole thing. And we did that.
Yeah, maybe 6 hours, but it was like an evening. I completely agree. No, I think we started around 6. We finished at midnight for Lovers, but like you're right, with Moon, it was like 3 nights, 6 hours, or 5 hours a night.
And there was like scripts changes like last minute. There were like little like things like people were like, oh, where should I go now? And I remember you like it was kind of getting like frustrated because everything was pitch black. It was freezing cold. It was sand everywhere. I had to reapply my makeup 3 times and I couldn't see a thing. I know you couldn't see anything either really because you were wearing the contacts the whole time.
The white contacts,
It was an intense experience. Wasn't as bad for me as Hanged Man was, but
that was the one where because we didn't really have so we did a mini shoot for Empress, but the moon was really like, okay, these guys are in their costumes, and your costume turned out so sick, like the one-eyed masked guy, like that was so fucking cool.
Yeah, well, mine's always been like just a furthering of the character, like I've always wanted it to be. I start off like fully bandaged, and then I kind of progress like more is revealed, and eventually you just kind of see like more and more what's going on under the bandage. Didn't really get the opportunity to fully flesh that kind of character out. Just the reality of like our budget constraints, lockdown obviously screwed a lot of things up too. But you can see in each like photo shoot and everything that there is like a progression of the character. I know you kind of wanted yours to like stay quite central from the start, like just like you wanted the priest carb, the eyes, the glazed over look sort of thing, and you pulled that off really well. I remember.
Yeah, I mean it came together nicely, and I think it was sort of like the blind sort of hooded figure character that I've sort of taken forward is working well with me, and your kind of character is a little bit more pushed or complex or has a bit more theatrics to it, like a bit more makeup and that type of thing, whilst mine's a little bit more simple, and I think that's working really well.
But that's also pretty reflective of like us as well.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Moon was a time. I'm very proud of that song. I love the outro as well with the choir. That's all your vocal there. That's just
the
stacked,
choir,
like 12
the choir
or
of me,
15 Geordies just stacked on top of each other. But
we were in the studio and you're like, all right, do a layer higher, and I'm like, and I'm like, geez, man, like I can't do anymore.
Just let me auto tune it, man. It'll be sweet.
Yeah.
No, but
fun.
Thanks for letting me kind of run the gauntlet with that. Like you never said like, oh no, dude, I'm gonna do all it. Like you were very encouraging, and like I think it showcases like we're a really good team, and we sort of give each other the space to do what we need to do creatively while still collaborating.
I think every song on Macabre Arcana has a section in it that would be questionable, that you would have like questioned me on, or I would have questioned you on. And then eventually we would have agreed like, yeah, let's do it in, and it worked out well. Like the build up spoken word bit for Empress, the weird breakdowny crazy bit on Lovers, all that kind of stuff. Like there's always risks that we've taken.
Yep.
Which have all paid off. I don't know if it's just luck or skill, but they all have so far.
That's it. So Lovers, the big one, the one that's really got the lift off, almost on 500,000 streams, which is crazy. Nice. But this one, like, as I remember, it had a totally different intro riff. It was like a lot more spiky. And you were like, I was super into it.
I think I was listening to the Heretic Prevails or something by Shadow of Intent, and they had that real like with the harpsichord and like the glockenspiel and stuff, and I was
sort
like,
of arpeggiated,
man, I love
kind of thing.
that. Yeah, I just love that sort of like spiky lead sort of thing. So I really tried to emulate sort of that with it, and then I don't know why we changed it. It just wasn't really hitting as hard.
I remember you were like, we got to change it, and I was like, what? And then you came in with the slinky System of a Down kind of intro, and I was like, whoa, this is a vibe. Like, what was the last band I heard doing like that sort of, like, it felt like so Toxicity or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, from that album,
I mean, well,
like, it was just so on point.
Our biggest influence, I reckon. Like, I would personally say that they're our biggest influence, more so than any deathcore or metalcore band.
Yeah, big time. Like the rhythm, like the simplistic rhythms that just punch you in the face and that type of thing, It's not overly cooked.
They play in drop C. They don't have a massive amount of layers. But they still manage to make really hard hitting riffs. And to be able to do that, I think is like, that's just good songwriting. I think it's just good writing.
Yeah. So this song like really came together pretty fast. I feel it was the breakdown that had more of the changes and like adding in a final chorus, not adding in a final chorus. Like I remember the song was pretty much as it is, and I kept wanting to bring back the second verse, and you were like, no. I was like, let's bring back the open, burn words bleeding red on the pale skin.
I balked at that. I was like, nah, man, no chance.
I was like, it only appears in the song once, man. This is so good. Like, we got to bring this back. But you were like, no, my child.
But that's the thing with you and me. That's the biggest difference that we have is you like to bring sections back and I don't. I like to just do something once and then never revisit it again. And that's just how I've always written. Because a lot of that originally came from me not being able to write transitions. I'm just bad at them. I'm just not very good at them. And now it's just like I feel like I don't like when things are oversaturated, you know? Like one of the reasons why I really hate like modern pop music is that they get a hook and a chorus and they just repeat it like 5 times in the song. And by the end of it, it's like, yes, I get it. I get what you're trying to say, but just fucking like move on a little bit, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's a good balance between us because I'm always trying to bring a bit more of that verse, chorus, like that pop structure in. And you are always pushing like, no, let's surprise the audience. Let's keep it fresh. Let's only bring this section in once and then it's gone. And that works really well for this one. Though. But the breakdown, I remember, took a while. Like, it originally didn't move down in tempo so much. It originally stayed at the same tempo and it was just like, and then we just dropped it the fuck down.
Yeah, it just wasn't hitting very hard.
Yeah, and it just made had this sort of like rush of air and then like a vacuum appear and then it comes in. And the video
and your vocal... And your vocal drop on that breakdown is still, to this day, my favorite thing that you've ever done vocally, I think. Just because, like, I remember being in the studio and we were recording it, and I remember, like, Ash was just sitting in, like, the corner. She was doing, like, design work, and we were just, like, kind of, all right, next take, let's do it. And I hit record, and you just did this, like, big wail scream thing. Like, Ash looked up from her computer, like, what? And I was like... what the hell are you doing? And then it just worked. It just stayed in the song. Like I think
like that desperate moaning and screaming kind of thing.
We said to ourselves like, all right, we'll get a proper take of that eventually, but we just left it in for like just reference for demo purposes, and it just never got taken out. It just stayed in the song, and that's still the original take.
Yeah, it just stayed in there. Yeah, it just had a vibe. And that song was always kind of like meant to be a bit more unhinged. I think out of all the songs on the EP, this is my best vocal performance. I think in the verse particularly, like my body doesn't have much time. Like all of that, the way my vocals are moving and like cascading, like it has a vibe. So I'm very proud of that song. And I think we've taken, I don't know, as a tease, I think we've taken a lot of those vibes in that song and kind of the next batch of tracks kind of take a bit more of Lover's influence. I don't know if you agree with that, but I think in a way, all the new songs are so different. But
no, I know what you mean. I can see more of Lovers than any other track in there, I guess. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I think we've kind of nailed a bit of a style on that in a way, but it's not to say that there's like the next batch of tracks are like just copy pasted Lovers. They've all got their own vibe, but that chunky, fat, death metal-y edge to it, like...
And also, like, they're a bit more chorus-based as well. There are a few more choruses and verses and stuff. Just grabby hooks, which is what... Like, I guess you could say that's what helped Lovers succeed, is having those really hooky moments. But, who knows?
Who knows?
We
talked a little bit about the video. That was fun. Punched it out pretty fast. We're supposed to have a whole other ending where the sun came up and they were feasting upon you, and then they were so sort of enthralled in the bloodshed that they failed to realize the sun was coming up and it vaporized them, and there was sort of a bit more of a moral sort of, a bit more of a cautionary tale aspect to the video. and I think we just ran out of money. And I was like, we can't pay for the CGI for this. So what little money we had, so it was just like, let's just make it a bit more fun and schlocky, and they kind of go off into the night.
Ran off into the distance, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, we did have a bit of CGI blood for those who, you know, noticed there's Geordie's blood there dripping on down the road.
Yeah, not my real blood. I didn't actually bleed. I mean, I might have. I was lying on a lot of rocks at the time.
You did good. You did
every music video that I've been in has been a harrowing experience for me for some reason or another.
You've died three videos on this EP. You died in the Hanged Man. You got hung. You got blown up by the moon. And then you got feasted upon by vampires. Like, what's next, bro?
I'm sure we'll keep that trend going in the future.
We'll have to.
But I don't mind doing the hard things, you know. As I said, like Hanged Man was just the worst experience. I remember you dragging that scene where we had to drag across the floor. It was like 1 second of footage. It's just my feet like moving across the floor, but it took us so many takes and it was so painful, and there was so much rocks and stuff down the back of my
your pants.
Yeah, it was just so awful. While I was fully blind the whole time.
Yeah, and you were just like, please, can I just look? Can I just get some sunlight into my
yeah?
And it was like,
and there were so many scenes where you're like, all right, just run ahead, and I'm like, all right, there's no trees in front of me, are there? Because like, if I run too fast, I'm gonna fucking just die.
You've done well, my boy.
Lovers
with the Lovers?
No, not really. To me, it always, if we had released Macabre as an EP from the start, I reckon that would have been like first single. It's definitely the most singly track out of all of them, which is probably why you can see that it's gone so well compared to the other ones.
Yep. And I remember we weren't going to have a final chorus, but we did put in a final chorus, and that worked well. Yeah. Just a killer track.
A lot of those structure changes were all you. I kind of just wrote the bits and then the breakdown, and then just kind of gave them to you, and you just arranged them in the way that you did, and it turned out pretty well. Yeah,
for me, it's my favorite that we did on this one, and
they were the easiest lyrics to write as well. They came together in, like, I was writing them on my work break while I was just sitting down eating some like KFC or something.
Fuck yeah!
And they came together so well.
Kafka.
Yeah. Does the juice.
Final song, Judgement. The one that, you know, it was on the back burner since, you know, the end of Empress, and So where it was up to the second time it comes in with Great Lord of Sin, O King of Death. Yeah. Up until there, that whole sort of 90 seconds remained the same. But then from that point, it had changed and went into this breakdown and gone into this and that. And we tried a bunch of things. And I just said, like, following quite nicely on from our conversation just then about wanting to repeat sections, I was like, let's repeat this section where my vocals first came in and just make it a bit more ambient, make it a bit bigger. So I basically just literally copy pasted the song and changed a few things. Like so it went into that bit, and then it went into the sort of distanty bit with Nick's script from Suggestions coming in, and it's the same riff as the first verse, just it's the same riff, but I've just added the so it was just like the whole song, like that first half, I just copy pasted things and changed them, and that was it, you know. And then we had the final chorus and all that, but it was funny how it was almost like we need to just take away elements rather than add in elements, and it sort of came together.
Yeah, I remember like some of the iterations of that song were like really massive outros, like with big choirs and everything, and none of them were just working. They all seemed like tacked on, like it almost seemed like two different songs like glued together in the middle. Yeah. And that was just because I was just struggling to write it, and I just gave it to you. I was ready to give up on that song. I was like a week away from just being like, let's just write a completely new song.
I remember that.
And just, we've got so many demos that we can use. Let's just do one of them. And you're like, no, man, well, just give me a week. I'll come up with something. And you sent me that just out of nowhere with the back half added onto it. And I was like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, felt like a song after that.
Yeah.
But that was a very interesting collaboration on that one, and it took the longest. And I remember your idea to get a guestie on that. Was it that? Did you want to get a guestie first, or was like, let's get Nick from Suggestions on this? I can't remember the what happened there.
I think I always wanted to get Nick on a song since I started talking to him, like, and because I just love his vocal work. Like when I first listened to Suggestions, I was like, man, how are these guys not bigger? Like
Massive.
He is just such a unique vocalist. Because, you know, I'm into all like that Japanese, like Duran Gray, all that kind of thing. It's like, so I'm always like got an ear out for like vocalists that just stand out a little bit in like especially in like deathcore and everything.
He's just a genuinely lovely guy. And the rest of the Suggestions guys, like we messaged them and really good dudes. Let's see what happens
really
in the
nice
future. But we've both got that sort of horror vibe, and it just felt right to bring him in. And man, he sent us the vocals, and it like had like each vocal line had a different microphone, or like 3 different microphones. So it was like, here's the condenser microphone, here's this microphone, here's a ribbon microphone. I'm like, bro, I use 1 microphone. He's using fucking 3 and blending them together. It was very impressive and just something cool, like inspiring. You know, because I do all the recordings, so those kind of nerdy things, it's just interesting to me. So
he was super
really
professional.
good. Really good vibes. And we didn't end up getting a video done for this one because we went into lockdown in Australia and just shit got super complicated. So we went with a lyric video that turned out really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we had really great plans for that video, but, you know, yeah, it happens. Just cut your losses.
So we've just gone through all the tracks. Super proud of Macabre Arcana. Amazing. And also, it's coming out on October 8th. All the songs have been remastered by Alan Douches, who is a prolific mastering engineer in the world of heavy metal. And I just think it's like the superior version of the EP. Like, I think all the songs sound really clear and they've got a little bit more balls to them, and it's just that extra level of polish and brings the whole thing together.
They had that real raw sound. As they were released originally, they had that real raw sound, which was really cool at the time. But I feel like moving ahead, you know, as we're trying to kind of break through more into the scene, it's important to kind of keep us up to that standard that our contemporaries are at.
Yep.
So,
yeah, and this EP, in a way, like the mixes all have a very raw, sort of organic style. And I think as you go through it all the way to Judgement, it gets a bit more polished. Like, especially on Judgement, we've got strings, we've got choirs. Like, it's a little more layered. And I think that you're going to hear a little bit more of that. Not completely. We're not going like Bring Me the Horizon or like Dimmu Borgir, like 3 orchestras on a song. But I think you're going to hear more diversity in the sonic palette from us moving forward. And I guess it's a little bit of a tease for what we're working on coming up in 2022, which is shaping up to be, it's a mighty thing.
The new batch of songs will be, in my opinion, honestly, being candid, I think they are so much better than Macabre Arcana. I think that we have just stepped up our game so much. There's multiple songs coming out. Can't tell you more than that, but they are going to be a whole different level.
Yeah, it's like when I listen back to Macabre, I feel like I hear us figuring it out, and on this new batch, we're so much more self-assured, and we know ourselves. Like, our self-awareness is better. We've just, everything is just on 11 for me. So I remember you mentioning like a while back, it's like, bro, are we peaking? Are we peaking too early on this next verse?
Raising the bar too high, bro.
But
there's so much pressure on us.
Very exciting times. And 2022 is going to be a massive year for us. So stay tuned. Well, that was our little track by track and a bit of a tease what's coming out in the future. We can cap things off now with a little bit of a Q&A, which we've received from some of the fans on Insta. Should we get into it?
Yeah, man.
Okay, let's see. Let's see what we got. Okay, Adam 21.9. Among all the songs you've released so far, which one is your favorite and why? Why don't you go first, Geordie?
I personally, I would say Empress. That song, like, not purely from a sonic point of view, but like what that song means to me and us as a band. I feel like it represents so much. Hanged Man was, as we've discussed earlier, Hanged Man was really written just as like kind of a throwaway sort of an idea that turned into something really impressive. But Empress was when we sat down and we're like, cool, what is the direction with this band going to be? Let's take it to the next step. What's our next song going to be? That's when because Hanged Man wasn't even written for 10K Crows. It was written for a previous band. Empress was the first song written for 10,000 Crows. Yeah. If you look at it that way.
That's very true.
So it's also the song, like, we really started to write like more deathcore passages. We've got like our big like massive breakdown at the end. It's when I started getting more into lyrics as well. That Black song metal just means a lot to me. Yeah, and I feel like it just came out so well. Like it just came out exactly how I wanted it to.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. For me, I think I mentioned this earlier on the podcast, it has to be Lovers for me. I just feel like the way that one came together, the fact that it got such an uplift in, like it's got the most streams. When I listen to the EP, it's the one that, like, once you work on a song for so long, it can kind of get a bit tired. And that one still feels so fresh to me, that opening riff, like, the Lovers for me is definitely a high standard. And I think you're going to hear a bit more of that sound going forward. Here we got another question.
I was going to say, from a subjective point of view, I'd probably say Lovers is our best song.
Yeah. Max D 203, is JoJo an influence with tarot cards and stuff? Now, I don't know what JoJo is. I kind of do now. It's like an anime where they...
I was going to say, if they're referring to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, then no, it is not an influence.
But we've gotten a lot of comments about this on YouTube, people messaging us. Yeah. It's obviously quite popular.
People have their own way of interpreting things. And obviously there's pop culture stuff that we aren't even like on the same level as that is like being attributed to our work. Like I remember there was the people saying like, oh, is Empress written about Daenerys from Game of Thrones? And we're like, no.
If you want it to be.
I can see why you would think it would be, yeah.
Like if you want it to be about Daenerys, like, let's go, That's the beauty of music. Is like, and that's what one of the things I love about Deftones is Chino never explains the lyrics, and you can just bring your own life and experiences to it. So if you want it to be about JoJo, it can be about JoJo, but it wasn't an influence. That's definitive.
No. I've watched the first season, but I didn't really get into it.
Okay. From our boy Darcy Wardle. What a fucking legend. Love you, Darcy. What made you come up with the name 10K Crows or 10,000 Crows?
10,000.
I remember this. I remember when we got this question, I actually broke it down in my head what happened. So what happened is we were kind of trying to come up with a name. Once we'd figured out that Hanged Man riff, we were like, we need to figure out, this has to be a new thing. And I remember I came up with 1,000 Crows. 1,000 Crows. And then it turned into 1,000 Crows. Because I think I was like Blink-182 or something. I was like, let's get a number in there. And then you were like, 1,000 Crows. It sounds a little wimpy. Let's bump that up 10x, 10,000 Crows. All right, now we're getting some evil vibes. So that's the way it went down to me. And it was no meaning. It's much more imagery-based name. It's just supposed to sort of be fitting for the band more than anything, you know what I mean? It's no like, I have a deep fear of crows because when I was a child, this crow, there's no origin story here.
I remember we were playing around with so many names. Like we had, originally we were playing around with like Ghost, the Ghost moniker. We were thinking like Old Ghost, No Ghost, whatever, all these weird names. And then that moved to Crow. And then we were thinking like Old Crows, Dying Crows, like just all these kind of like just dumb little names. And then you came up with that one, and I was like, yeah, all right.
I don't remember any of those interim names at all.
Yeah, they're all very throwaway.
Yeah, Old Crow's like shit. Get out of here, man! Like an old tired crow. Like we would be done after the first release. Fuck. Thanks for the question, Darcy. Leo Dios. Anyway, planning on doing many gigs when things have cleared up? If so, whereabouts?
Oh man, anywhere, everywhere. I miss playing on stage. We haven't played on stage together since 2015. You and me.
Really?
Yeah,
That was that's
Dance
when we
Gavin
supported
Dance.
Dance Gavin Dance.
Yeah, that was the last gig we ever played together.
I remember going
Oxford Arts
outside.
Factory.
I remember going outside having a cigarette. I don't smoke anymore. But I remember having a cigarette and being like, imagine if that was our last show. And it fucking was. And I so clearly remember thinking that and being like, how this could never be our last show because we just supported Dance Gavin Dance. Like this was our biggest yet. And it was like,
And
well,
that was a pretty good show as well. I
Yeah.
remember.
Oxford
Ending
Art
on a high
Factory.
note. But I do miss playing. I think the intention with this band, like every intention, is to get on stage at some point. It's just not. It's not our priority. It's not going to be our revenue. It's not going to be like our focus. Really, we just want to produce really good music. Eventually, obviously, bring that to a live audience. But you know, it's just not really on our minds. It is on our minds. It's just not at the forefront of our minds.
Yeah, I'm
Especially
very
with the world the way
cautious.
it is.
I'm very cautious to put the foot on the gas or whatever the expression is because like you see a band like Spirit Box, which is blowing the fuck up, and they lost that Limp Bizkit tour. They lost 20-30 grand on that, and they had to get bailed out essentially because they've pre-rented the lights, they've pre-rented this, they've paid this. You've rented the tour van, and it's like, we don't have the bandwidth to make any mistakes like that. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have a label. We got nobody looking after us. So if we kind of overinvest or like cook it, like, I'm not saying it'll derail the band, but it could derail the band. You know what I mean? Like,
it could. It's a whole other avenue to introduce into like the band paradigm. It changes everything. We'd have to get new members. We'd have to get like, a stable drummer who can do everything. And then there's also, backing tracks, live amps, live guitars. There's so much that goes into it. It's not as simple as turn up to a studio, rehearse, play a gig the next day. It takes so much time and preparation. And especially for us as well, because I think if we do want to get onto the stage, I know you and I have spoken about this a lot. Like, we want to make sure it's going to be as good as it can be. We don't want to be opening for bands in like just some club on a Thursday night.
Yeah. We've done that whole circuit.
We've done
before.
that. We've done it. We did the hard yards. We've done the years. Skyon played like, all over New South Wales. I've been in other bands as well that have like played all over Australia.
Yep.
It's just it's kind of grinding. It's not rewarding. It's fun. It's fun, but
There's
at
a
the end
time
of the
and
day,
a place for it.
Yeah.
And I think we're in a different era. Like, I think back in the day,
on in age.
Yeah, like yes, we are. But it's like there was a time and a place for that where you'd have to go grind on the local scene. But now it's almost like nobody's turning up for those shows, kind of thing. So you kind of got to skip over that. And 2022, I would like to say you'll see us on stage, but I'm not going to promise it. It's like it's there's so many variables. It's like. But a couple of things that I would like to say is, where would we like to play? I would love to play in Europe. That's my dream. If we could get over to Germany or the UK, that for me would be a massive win. I know Japan's a hotspot for you.
Yeah, I really want to play Japan.
But, these territories, like Germany's our second biggest streaming destination, behind the USA. So, I think we got some European undertones that, would work for that market. So I'm very keen to get over to Europe ASAP. But when will that be? Who the fuck knows? But cool question.
Yeah. And then obviously, like, there's heaps of like good festivals in Australia at the moment. There's Unify, Night and Day just announced, like all that kind of stuff. I'd love to get on any of them, really.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah. That might be a good thing for us next year. Let's see. Another question from Leo Daos. You, of course, made this recent album, the whole tarot card concept. What new music? What should we expect to see? Use of another concept, maybe? What do you say to that?
Like, there's so much, like, because obviously we've spent the last 6 months just working on this new crap. There's so much that I want to say and talk about with the new music because I was so much more involved in the writing process as well. Like the production process, I mean, sorry. There's so much that I want to say about it, but I just really can't at the moment. Same with you as well, I know.
Anything you can tease?
But
there's a concept.
It is still going to be concept.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like super high concept, but it is going to be quite thematic. I would say it's heavier. It's darker. It's tuned a bit lower.
Yep.
I know your vocal performance has been like nuts compared to like you're doing more lows, you're doing more gravelly, screechy things. Like you're like really coming into your own as a vocalist. The guitar work is more technical.
Yeah.
The choruses are catchier. The breakdowns are like there's a few breakdowns.
Yeah, some heavy shit.
Mad. Yeah, there's going to be. I really can't even compare it to any song from Macabre because it's, again, like in the same way that Macabre Arcana utilizes like, a different sound for every song, we're still kind of trying to emulate that a little bit with the new stuff. So you hear a little bit of like Hanged Man kind of hardcore riffs. You'll hear a lot of like black metal stuff like Empress. Yeah.
There's a straight up death metal song on there.
Yeah.
Like there's a song that's like almost post-hardcore, like, which is kind of bizarre to say,
that starts
but it's like,
with just like piano and stuff like that, and there's like, it is like I think we've really explored a lot more sonically as well.
But it feels more holistic, as you said before. Like it's sounding dope.
Yeah.
Like, and we're still not even finished with the tracking. Like all the writing is essentially done. It's now just kind of vocals and layering and stuff. But
yeah,
man, you fucking killed it on these ones, dude. Like I cannot wait to get this shit out.
I'm impressed with what I've managed to put together, and I'm impressed with what you've managed to add to it as well. Like I think this is going to be a really standout release for us.
Nice to be getting back into that pretty fucking soon. We've got another question here. Where does the name come from? Okay, we've already answered that. I've got a couple more. Okay, so this was from Panino Alform. How did you know your talent to sing deathcore? You tried and found that you are pretty good, or did you practice? To be honest, like deathcore, like some of these people, like who's the new guy from Lorna Shore?
Will Ramos.
Like some of the stuff this guy's doing is fucking wild, man. And I just don't really have that kind of vocal style. Like my vocal style is much less sort of like that harmonic, throaty sort of thing, and a much more like a hardcore yell that has been wrangled into this sort of black metal deathcore thing. And I'm still improving. I think I still got a long way to go. Like I still don't think I've hit my full potential on vocals, which is really exciting. But I've been going on doing this for like 10 years, 12 years, like since maybe 2008, 2009, like, but much more in a metal core. Like Ollie from Bring Me the Horizon, everyone used to always say I sounded like Adrian from North Lane, the old North Lane singer. So, that kind of style. But I think I'm coming into my own, and definitely with your guidance, Geordie, it's like shaping. I think I'm stepping it up as a vocalist. And I think sometimes before, because I'm such a producer, like I wear my producer hat and like arranging, sometimes I think of myself more that than a vocalist. So sometimes in the past, I feel like vocals has just been tacked on, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right, I do vocals as well. But I think now I'm really starting to think of myself as more of a vocalist and perfect things and step things up there.
I think once the new release comes out, it'll speak for itself a lot in what you're capable of and what you're kind of like trying to, like the identity you're trying to carve out for yourself, I guess.
Yep.
Which is cool. Like, especially like, like without giving away too much, track 3 of the next release.
Oh yeah.
The next batch, like the third song, the vocal performance that you've done on there, like it's just like nuts.
Hell yeah. Kyle Tear 320. Is there meaning behind the songs, or you guys just like horrorcore style? I mean, horrorcore style, I don't even know what that is. We just pulled that out of our ass. Yeah, I mean, each song has its own meaning. And I definitely think in terms of the tarot cards, they're all very thematically strong. The Hanged Man, if we're just going to rattle it off, the Hanged Man's about somebody's last moments dying in a hospital of COVID. The Empress is about this boss bitch just taking out armies. The Moon is kind of like this cult-like ritual, that apocalyptic ritual that's sort of unfolding. The Lovers, what's the Lovers about? Vampires and I don't even know.
Lovers, like, you gave me a really clear definition of what you wanted the lyrics to be about for the first time, I think.
Okay.
You were like, you should write the lyrics about the addiction of love, like love.
Yeah, that's
as
right.
Love as a destructive like thing, like
Yes.
as an addiction.
That's right. That's
and
right.
I was like, all right, I can like kind of like vibe with that. But yeah, like a lot of our songs, like I don't really think there's too much personal meaning in there. Like obviously not our like personal experiences or anything like that, but it is all like, you know, we love horror. I love reading like horror novels and like, you know, we love watching horror movies, all that kind of stuff. So anything we can do to add that into our music. Yeah.
And what about Judgment? That was sort of, what's that? It's sort of apocalyptic as well, right?
Judgment is like, this is something that we haven't really addressed too much because it hasn't really come up so much, but the kind of like anti-religious sort of side of things from Judgment, like I know that comes from me more so than you.
I'm definitely anti-religious, but more moderate than
because
you.
we wouldn't be in a band together if you weren't. But like, it's Judgment is really kind of the stepping stone for that. Like, I think we're exploring that a lot more in future releases. Well, as long as you keep letting me write the lyrics, man, like that, it's just going to keep getting
popping up
that way. So
yeah. And I think we've got one more question here. Oh no, we got two more questions here. Sorry. Were you going to say something there?
No, nothing important.
No, okay. I'm sure it was important. Leo D. Diaus coming back. I wish I could say your name properly. I'm just can't pronounce things. I'm sure this is pretty commonly asked, but when's new music coming out?
Do we have a rough window?
Let's say 2022. And that's all I'm going to say.
That's a big window.
That's a big window. That's all I can say. Because I don't want to commit to anything. Do you know what I mean? Like,
no.
We have our goals. We have our timeline. But I don't want to put that out there in case the gamma variance comes through and we're in lockdown again. You know, who the fuck knows what's... I never thought we were going to be in lockdown this year. I mean, we went away to record that stuff to your parents' place, which was so lovely. And then we came back and we were in lockdown. So who the fuck knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, I'd say we're definitely aiming for first quarter 2022. That's as narrow a window as I can give, I guess.
But that we can't commit to that. We can't commit to
even
that.
Then.
Yeah. 2022, you're going to get a lot of 10K, don't worry. It's going to be coming at you. And Adam219, what's the thing that inspired y'all into starting the band and making music? Do you remember what was the band that started you on guitar?
Yeah, it was my cousin's band. It was a local battle of the bands, like somewhere down in like the Blue Mountains or something. And it was a band called Chronic, and my cousin played drums in it. And I went and saw them, and I was only about like 9 or something at the time. And I saw it and I was like, wow, this is cool. And then the guitarist just started like screaming and like crying into the microphone. Like he was almost like breaking down on stage, like on his back, like holding the mic and everything. And so I was like, yeah, this is my kind of guy. Cool. I can get into this kind of stuff. So that's what's really started it. Yeah. And then it was like, and then, you know, my brother introduced me to a lot of music. So it was early days, like Limp Bizkit, System of a Down, Nirvana, Alkaline Trio, a lot of like punky bands as well. That's what really got me started onto all that kind of stuff. And all those bands obviously have like similar guitar styles, which is like chunky, simplistic kind of riffs, which is where a lot of my kind of writing. Yeah, that's where a lot of my writing comes from.
But do you remember when did you get a guitar? Like when did that whole thing happen?
I was 11 and I was in grade 6, and it was an SX like $199 little blue kind of Strat body guitar, and I just started learning. I think the first song I ever learned was "Come As You Are" by Nirvana. Then straight after that, I think I learned "Prison Song" by System of a Down.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And then that was, they were the first 2 songs I learned, and they weren't even in the right tunings, but it was fun.
So good. I think for me, my little origin story is when I think I was turning 14. I asked for my mum, can you get me one of these CDs? Because I was always very embarrassed about music. I remember in year 6, we had to come to school with a song. And I remember just having so much anxiety over like having to present a song and being like, this is a song I like. I thought I was going to get ridiculed. I don't know why. I had this major anxiety about music. And I felt very much on the outside. But then when I turned 14 or 13, I remember just feeling like, I'm starting to get into this. And I said to my mum, I either want Nelly Sweatsuit or Good Charlotte's The Chronicles of Life and Death. And she got me Good Charlotte. And I swear to God, that sort of gothic, like that album had a bit of a Tim Burton-y gothic kind of vibe. And I swear to God, it set me on a pathway, man. And then...
Was that your first album?
That was my first album, dude.
You know what mine was?
What was it?
It was the tribute single from Tenacious D.
Oh, fuck yeah. That's pretty good.
And it had these weird little acoustic B-sides that was just like Jack Black just swearing while like playing like over like a nice little acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
And then after that it was
That's a sick album.
After that it was Hybrid Theory.
Oh yeah. That fuck that tribute song. Did you see they came out with what song it's about?
Isn't it about Stairway to Heaven?
It is, but it's more so about Metallica 1.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I never knew that.
That's one you would know well.
I do know. I've played that song on stage many times.
For those who don't know, Geordie used to be in a Metallica tribute band. Is that what you would call it?
I used to be in the Metallica tribute band.
In Australia.
I would say that they, like, honestly, this Damage Inc., if you've ever seen them live, you're basically just seeing, like, Metallica play in, like, a pub. Like, it's so good. Those guys give it, like, 100%.
They know what's up. Well, there were some lovely questions from the beautiful 10K family. Hey, this was pretty fun. First episode of 10K Pod. This isn't going to be a monthly thing. Like, maybe we'll see this down the track. Who knows? But right now, this is for every major release we do. We're going to do one of these. And, you know, we'll see where it goes. But this will be available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, all that good stuff. And, hey, if you like this, leave a review. Send us a message. Are there any other things you want to see from us in the future? And don't forget, pre-orders for our fucking Macabre Arcana fucking merch is ending this Friday. So if you want to get a discount and be part of that first batch, get in there. They're going up by $5-10 a garment after this Friday. So get yourself in there. Support your boys. We've got vinyls as well. And also, if you want to use your discount code 10KPOD for 10% off, get in there. Geordie, any final words for this first episode of the 10K Pod?
You know me, man. I'm a man of extremely few words.
Did you have fun? Did you have any semblance of fun?
Yeah, it was good, man. It was a nice breakup from my routine of just staring out a window.
Fuck yeah. Good shit. Well, thanks everyone for listening in. Go stream our stuff. Macabre Arcana is out Friday. Show a friend. And hey, I don't know, how do we finish this? Goodbye. So,
goodbye and so long.
Salutations. All right. Peace out. Bye, everyone.